Good morning, everybody. We're just waiting for more people to join us in the room. Sometimes it takes a few moments for people to load up. Okay, well, it looks like the numbers are slowing down, so I will jump into things. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Patrick Sullivan, and I'm the President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Navigating COVID-19 webinar with, sadly for you, just me. As you know, the Chamber's been sending out emails to our members to keep you all informed of the almost daily updates from all levels of government. As such, I've been keeping up to speed quite closely, or watching quite closely all the changes that are being made. So the folks at the Chamber decided that I might be a good resource to all of you. So I'm happy to speak to you all and answer any questions or comments that you may have. We are pleased to see the government is adding new measures every day to ensure that all our businesses and individuals have access to the support they need. But with so much information, it can be a bit overwhelming. I think there was a flurry of activity just 2 weeks ago where the government had 6 announcements over 6 days that all could impact businesses. So significant number of changes. Our team at the Chamber has been researching each new piece of funding or support as they're released to better understand what's available, who's eligible, and when. And we thought we'd share this important information with you all today. So I'm going to run through our resources webpage, which has all the information up to date. And I'll share my screen with you so we can walk through that together. We do have a couple of resources at the bottom of the page. You will see on your Zoom recording that there is a Q&A box and there's a chat box. So please take a look at those, ask questions as we go, and I will be pleased to answer those questions for you. I would encourage you, if you're commenting in the chat box, to address your question or comment to panelists and all attendees. That way, everyone that is on the webinar with us today can take a look at your question, and some of them may have an answer to that question. If you address it to only all panelists, then I will be the only one that will be able to see it. I don't think we can do private chats on this, but again, all panelists means just I see it. All panelists and all attendees mean others can see it. Okay, this will be recorded and will be available for later viewing. Although I'm a little more careful, the last time I did this, I showed everyone my RBC bank card number. So I have a new RBC bank card now, but it will be available for later viewing. I'll show you where all of those will be located. They're actually on the Chamber YouTube page. So if you search YouTube Halifax Chamber, you'll go to our channel and you'll find all of the webinars that we're recording there. Okay, so as we get started, I'm going to launch right into sharing my screen. And of course, I've got it on the wrong thing to start, but it's a good enough spot. I was checking out Sean Fraser, the MP, and his Twitter feed this morning just to make sure there were no new announcements this morning before we get started. So I believe you can all see our Halifax Chamber webpage. This is our page inside the Halifax Chamber website. So you would start at our homepage, and you would go to the COVID-19 resource page, and we're already kind of at a spot where you'd find lots of information. I'm going to quickly go through these 2 sheets because they're very helpful, and then we'll take a closer look at all of the areas down below. You can see each of those pop open, and we'll go through those. But I want to touch on these 2 sheets. They're available for download or for printing, and they also have hyperlinks. So for instance, these are the federal resources on this page, and then we get into provincial resources on the next page. The Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, you can see, is hyperlinked. If I click on that, I will go right off to the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy. So just to talk about that for you know, and I'll probably get into it more detail when I go down below. So let me just go back to these pages and kind of go through them rather quickly. So there is the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, which provides a 75% wage subsidy for eligible employers. We'll talk about eligibility in a moment. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB. I'm going to refer to these by their acronyms. So the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit is more of an individual thing. That's the CERB. The Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy, which I'm going to call CEWS, is for organizations. There is the Canada Emergency Business Account, which is CEBA, which is a $40,000 loan, of which $10,000 is forgivable. There's the Business Credit Availability Program, or BCAP, provided by BDC or EDC. I'm not going to talk about that too much today because it tends to be for larger organizations. The federal government has deferred GST, HST, and customs duty, so you can keep your GST or HST remittances until June 30th. You then have to remit them. And then the newest one is the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, or CECRA. Provincially, the Worker Emergency Bridge Fund, which is, I'm not sure if it's over now, but it's getting close to over. The Small Business Impact Grant, which is over, that was available for small businesses up to $5,000 per business based on 15% of sales revenue. That was primarily for businesses that were ordered closed, or almost totally for businesses that were ordered closed. And then we have the Small Business Credit and Support Program, which is a new program. Again, we'll talk more about that. Small Business Loan Guarantee, which is provided by the credit unions across Nova Scotia, which is a much larger program. And although it's guaranteed, it's basically the same program that's been there in the past. There's also an employer assessment tool to enable businesses to determine what was ordered to close, although hopefully we're coming out of that. And then, of course, if you have any questions or comments, let us know at concerns@Halifax Chamber. So that was a quick overview of those documents. Those are available to be printed. And of course, if you're looking at them online, you'll be able to see the hyperlinks. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to move my screen around a bit as I can't see the chat function. Let's see. All I can see your Q&A. So Sandra, if there are any chats, please let me know. On to the federal resources. I do want to say, you know, the federal government is now talking about reopening the economy. It is more of a provincial responsibility. So we are expecting the province to start to talk more often about this. In fact, a group that I chair called the Nova Scotia Business Labour Economic Coalition, which is over now 100 organizations that represent over 15,000 businesses, not-for-profits, charities, and labor across Nova Scotia, and over 200,000 employees, are meeting with Dr. Strang at 11 a.m. this morning. So we're meeting with Dr. Strang and talking about what's next. Everything I've heard so far, for those of you listening on the phone, everything I've heard so far is that we're going to be, as individuals, as organizations, we're going to be responsible for policing, if you will, our reopening. So if you are a restaurant, I would ask you to look to the to RANS, the Restaurant Association of Nova Scotia, or Restaurants Canada. They will have documentation on how to reopen and what to do. We will have that at the Chamber as well. I'll also speak to a document that I found very helpful as we get into some of our additional resources. I'm going to jump, I guess, first into CECRA, which is the Commercial Rent Assistance Program. There may be questions about this. It is it's still a program that is a little up in the air. You can see that this is the announcement from the Prime Minister. I won't go there. Sorry, these close every time. I'll go to this location, which is about the only information that's available to date on this document or on this program. And it presents from CMHC who's eligible to apply for CECRA. So it shows you know, a little bit of information. The secret is available to small business tenants, small business subtenants. What is a small business tenant? It is someone that doesn't pay over $50,000 in monthly gross rent. It is someone that does not generate more than $20 million in annual revenue, and they've had a 70% decline. That's a big decline, 70% decline in pre-COVID-19 revenues, which I suspect means that they will have been ordered to close. Okay, I'm going to go through these quickly, so if you want me to focus on one, please let me know. Secret is still a bit controversial, and I say that because it provides 75% of the rent to the landlord. So there are landlords that are not enthusiastic about it because it is only 75% of the rent that they would normally be entitled to. There are businesses who are not enthusiastic about it because they don't have 75%. They only need 25%. I should clarify that. They only need 25%, and the federal government is going to kick in the other 50%. Federal and provincial governments kick in the other 50%. So it is, and it's still a bit up in the air. So I know there are landlords participating. I know that the provincial government has said that this will harmonize with the rent deferral program that they put in place about a month ago. So you can utilize both programs. I have had questions about whether you could write a side deal with your landlord in order to pay 50%, so 25% immediately, 25% is deferred rent, and then 50% provided by the federal and provincial government. I would say that that is still a question that's up in the air. I wouldn't advise you to do it, but if you would like to work towards that, landlords may be more enthusiastic about participating in this. If they were going to get 100% of the rent, and you should be more enthusiastic about it because you will have the opportunity to get 50% of your rent paid by the federal and provincial government. Okay, so happy to come back to that. This is still something that folks should take a look at if you have had a 70% decline. It's also available to people, landlords who do not have mortgages. Okay. The CERB, Canada Emergency Response Benefit, I'll touch on that briefly because it's been around now for a couple of, well, 5 to 6 weeks, I suppose. CERB, the big change to CERB is that although you can receive $2,000, you do need to reapply. So if you applied last month, you need to reapply this month. Please keep that in mind. And you can earn, here's the important part right here, you can earn up to another $1,000 in employment or self-employment income during that month. So if you can work part-time and gain that $1,000, you can also still participate in the $2,000 from the federal government in CERB. Okay, that is important. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, I know this is something that many organizations are trying to take advantage of, trying to utilize. We are as well at the Chamber, I will tell you that. We applied, first you need to utilize the wage subsidy calculator, and then you can apply for the, again, CEWS, if we can call it that, for CEWS and get that program. It's a little messy as that sometimes it doesn't line up perfectly with payroll periods since it started mid-March, runs till mid-April. We do have a document down here. You can see find your resource and flow charts. If I click on that, you can see there is a flow chart on the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy and how that works. So it provides a few answers on exactly how it works. It is a relatively simple program. I will say that. If you do qualify and you need to have a 15% revenue hit in the first month, if you qualify for that, you automatically qualify for the second period, and you will need to reapply for the third period. If you didn't have that 15% reduction in the first period, you can still apply for the second period, but the reduction needs to be a 30% reduction in revenue. 10% wage subsidy for employers. that is still available. So even if you have not had a decline in revenue of 15% or 30%, you can still qualify for the 10% wage subsidy for employers. There's an expectation that everyone is suffering a little bit, and some are suffering a great deal from COVID-19 and their business. So still, the 10% is still available. Okay. So I'm going through these rather quickly. I would encourage you to, if you have specific questions, to ask the questions. Don't see any, I don't think I can see the chat anymore, Sandra. So you may need to shout at me if there's chats there, okay? Small and medium-sized businesses unable to access other support measures. So recently, a couple of weeks ago, Canada's regional development agencies, so that would be in our region, ACOA, received a top-up. You can see ACOA here, a top-up of about 50% of their budget. They're now developing programs, and what those programs will be that folks can apply for in Nova Scotia in particular, and for ACOA across Atlantic Canada. So I would encourage you to keep an eye out for those. We're speaking to ACOA 3 times a week right now, and my understanding is that, excuse me, that ACOA should have that information available later this week. I expect that will there'll be some specifics for organizations and how you can apply for some of the programs. I don't want to speculate on what some of those programs are. In addition, I guess not on this page, but in addition, there are groups in Nova Scotia in the rural areas. Sorry, here we go, right here, rural businesses and communities. Okay, well, we see a repeat called CBSAs. So don't really see where they are on this page. Let's see, Atlantic Canada Opportunity. Anyway, the CBSAs are for rural businesses. So if you're rural, you can apply to CBSAs. There is, Halifax is quite large. So if you look to the Eastern Shore, there are CBSAs that kind of wrap around Halifax. So down into Hubbard's on the South Shore and up along the Eastern Shore, I think it's called CBSA Blue Water or something like that. Sandra can maybe check and let me know. So those organizations exist as well for rural businesses. BDC also has support. This is a great document. I would encourage you to take a look at it. I don't think it has a date on it, but this information was up to date as of April 30th. Okay, so it will be updated weekly. This does provide a great overview of all of the programs from the Canadian Emergency Business Account, BDC, EDC, BDC, and then it kind of provides links on where to apply. So this is a fairly lengthy document. Even includes things like farm credit, all sorts of things. So really would encourage you to look at that. It's again a great example of where to find all the information. Work sharing, we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm just going to flip through. Yeah, and then it does have specifics by province. So I'm just getting to Nova Scotia. You can see the Nova Scotia programs that are available. Okay. So sorry, this keeps flipping back, but that's the way our website works. Assisting, let's see, rural business, I talked about that. Assisting innovative and early stage businesses. So again, the NRC has, through IRAP, just looking for, yeah, here we go. So COVID, the Industrial Research Assistance Program, or IRAP, is available for small businesses. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. If you're a startup or a small business or working at some of our startup incubators, you can take a look there. Okay. Let's see, not-for-profit and charitable organizations, support for businesses. I think, well, the government has recently provided additional funding for for charitable organizations, so provided significant funding to organizations like United Way, who are then providing that funding across the province, and to other organizations, right? United Way does not fund things directly. Work sharing, this was popular at the beginning of our of the COVID-19 issues. Here we go, work sharing. So this explains what work sharing is. So work sharing is basically folks can share jobs, and they can then qualify for either EI or CERB. This is something that was popular initially before there were other programs. It became less popular, but I would encourage you to take a look at this, particularly as we start to return to a reopening sort of idea. This is something that you need to apply for in advance to the employment insurance folks. So you need to apply in advance. It does allow employees then to share work. So perhaps, you know, when we return to work, or we return to opening, you know, some folks may still have children at home. You know, schools may not reopen, so they may not be able to come back to work full time. If that's the case, perhaps work sharing would be an option for some people. So this is, you know, something that you could look at if you wanted to bring folks back, but you're unable to bring them back full time. This may be something that you can look at. Additional funding for not-for-profits. Diane's asking. Again, I think that was specific funding for organizations like United Way, who then were providing that funding to other organizations. So I think you would need to look for that. If I was to, let me flip back here a little bit and go to not-for-profit and charitable, rural business. I think we're in the business section here. More time. Let me just flip up. Supporting people, delivering essential services. So I think that was primarily what the government was doing, was providing additional funding to larger organizations like United Way, who then had additional resources to provide. We'll find out for you, Diane, what those specifics are, and we can get back to you after this session. Okay. Support for sectors. I think we've kind of covered that. We won't go through that at this point. It's a lot of links here. Wellness Together, you know, given what we've been going through over the last little while, particularly in Nova Scotia, mental health is something that certainly folks need to keep in mind, and we as employers need to keep in mind. So this, oh gosh, this is an opportunity to take a look at a program that is provided by Wellness Canada. I know that the NSHA has also provided additional resources for mental health support at this time. CEBA is the Canadian Emergency Business Account, and that Canadian Emergency Business Account is the $40,000 that I mentioned. That has changed over the last while. So it is available for businesses that have payroll of as low as $20,000 and as high as $1.5 million. So if we look at the eligibility requirements, you can see the $20,000 to $1.5 million. This is a really good program, so I would really encourage you to apply. Encourage everyone to apply for this if they can. And the reason I say that is it has a $10,000 forgivable portion, something that many other programs don't have. So would really encourage you to take a look at that. It also has very low interest rates or no interest rates for almost a year and a half. So again, I would encourage you to take a look at this for sure if you can. For many small businesses who pay themselves through dividends, this doesn't work for them. So there is a provincial program that I'll talk about in a few moments that Nova Scotia launched about a week ago. Okay, so but I would really encourage anyone who can take advantage of this. You really should take advantage of the CEBA program. Okay. It's provided by all of the major banks. I won't click on their links, but these links will go directly to the application. And as I understand it, those applications are going through within 2 or 3 days. So if you apply, you will likely get the money within 2 or 3 days. You need to apply to your own financial institution. So if you bank with RBC, apply to RBC. Don't apply to Scotiabank. If you bank with Scotiabank, apply there. If you bank with a credit union, they also have the program, or CUA. You should apply directly there. Okay. Much of this information around students and youth is still a little hazy. And I say that because although the government has announced information and is now passed legislation, the details are not out there yet, and applications are not out there. So it is a good program in that it will provide up to $1,250 per month for up to 4 months for students. And students with disabilities or dependents can receive extra funding. There are criteria. So, if you have students in your household, or if you are a student, I would encourage you to look at this. But again, the detail is not yet fully available, and I know students are looking for that now. I would also encourage you, if you are an employer, student work placement programs. So the Canada Summer Jobs Program closed in February, but it's supposed to reopen again. And when it reopens, there will be dollars available for you to hire students. And in some cases, you can stack, which often doesn't happen, stack with provincial programs. You may be able to get students for up to 100% of their funding. So you won't have to pay them directly from your payroll anything. It will be funded totally. Now it may be through a rebate or a refund, but funded totally by the provincial and or federal government. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. As well, there's organizations like ICTC, and if I could click through to that, they'll explain exactly how some of their programs will work. And if you can speak to some of the employers, I know we had comments from the last time at Dal or St. Mary's or Mount St. Vincent. I believe they're familiar with some of these programs and familiar with how you can get the additional funding that you need to get up to 100%, if possible, for some of the students. So would really encourage everyone who needs students or needs extra help this summer. It's a great time to hire somebody and get them fully funded if there's a project that you've been thinking of doing for a period of time. Some of these students have amazing skills, so I'd really encourage you to take a look at that. Okay. And then finally, Young Entrepreneurs, Futurepreneur Canada also has funding that can assist. I think just looking to see if they've got a specific page on COVID-19. So I don't see it right here, but I know they've received additional funding in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So should get you to take a look at that as well. Okay. I am going through this quickly, so please let me know if there are questions that you'd like to ask as we're going along. Okay. Provincial resources. You're likely all familiar with the medical order that closed a number of businesses. Those businesses would have been restaurants were closed to eat-in dining, they were not closed to takeout, and other organizations like gyms, dentists, massage therapists, physiotherapists. All of those organizations were ordered closed. Okay, they were ordered closed. The state of emergency has been extended now, I believe, and I'm kind of going off the top of my head to I think it would be till May 17th. So the state of emergency is extended for those businesses. It is our expectation that people will be able to reopen sooner than later. Not all of those businesses, I will say, but certainly I know a large number of retail businesses began to close, and of course, many small businesses closed in order to help stop the spread. So there is likely going to be an opportunity to return to work in the near future, but I would really encourage you to think about that. What about not-for-profit schools? In terms of the, sorry, just to clarify, in terms of the medical order, if that's what you're asking about, schools were ordered to close. And I know daycares were ordered to close as well. I would suggest for anybody that has questions about the medical order, I would encourage you to go to the medical order. Let's go there together because it's helpful to look at that. Sorry, I'm just flipping through Google here to get to the right page. If we go to the Nova Scotia page, you can see this is Novascotia.ca/coronavirus. It has a lot of information available, particularly about education. It has alerts and notices. And we do have the provincial state of emergency health protection order, which is right at the top. This is updated on May 1st. It does talk about businesses, public schools, daycare facilities, family daycares, regulated Daycare Act, and pre-primary programs. So this speaks to it. So if that's what the question was, but I can certainly continue to answer that as well. So I was talking about reopening. Again, believe this is going to happen. I would really encourage you all to have a plan in place. You need to have a plan for reopening. You need to have a plan for social distancing in your workplace or in your establishment, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. It's going to be up to all of us to do this. I don't think the government is going to have the specifics, but they will, I suspect, continue to insist on social distancing, okay? So really keep that in mind. The newest program by the provincial government is the Small Business Credit and Support Program. That is a program that will provide a loan of up to $25,000 through participating provincial credit unions. The loan application will be available, it's available now, to June 30th. If you're approved for the loan, you'll be eligible for a $1,500 grant, okay? Not as rich, obviously, as the $10,000 available from the federal government in the Canadian Emergency Business Account. If you qualify for the Canadian Emergency Business Account, you cannot get this amount, so you can't stack this. But if you receive dividends, or if you pay yourself through dividends, or don't have a payroll of over $20,000, you are eligible for this. Again, this is about all there is for folks who get paid dividends. So I know we don't like debt, we don't like taking on additional debt, but I would encourage folks, if you need the cash, this is a way to get cash. It does start to charge interest, I believe, in July. We're trying to get that changed, so we're encouraging government to delay that interest charge for a number of months. We've not yet had a positive response. That would cost the provincial government money, but I believe it would be a good investment, and it would encourage people to take the loan as well. So you do get the loan of up to $25,000, a grant of $1,500, and this is an interesting add-on, which is a business continuity voucher of up to $1,500. This voucher will allow you to pay a consultant or for professional advice to help you adapt or recover from the effects of COVID-19. So, I've heard folks kind of discount this. I think it's something to take seriously. It's a real opportunity. If you want to, change your website, if you want to pay your accountant, if you want to get some advice on how to reopen, this is an opportunity to get that $1,500 voucher, and then the provincial government will pay that $1,500 to the individual of your choice. It can't be your wife or husband. It needs to be arm's length, but it is an opportunity for you to get a little bit of money and to spend that money on some of the programs that you may need. Okay, so I would encourage folks to take a serious look at this program and at this loan. This is the biggest thing that the province has in place at this time. and getting $25,000 and having a cash flow cushion may help restaurants purchase stock and reopen. It may help all of us to kind of get ready as we move towards reopening. So I would encourage you to take a look at this. The link, here's the link, and it takes you to the credit union page. It provides just a brief qualification questionnaire, and then you can check eligibility, and then it will allow you to provide information. This is a little delayed, as I understand it, in terms of paying out the cash. They have been a bit overwhelmed, and many of these customers are new customers to the credit union. So you should take a look at the program. So the question is, the business continuity voucher available as a standalone? It is my understanding it is not. It is part of the program. However, I think the business continuity voucher is a good thing. The one-time grant is a good thing, and you don't have to keep the money. So if you wanted to return the money sooner, I would encourage you to still take the loan, get the $1,500 grant or whatever you're eligible for, and then get that business continuity voucher. For those of you that are consultants or would like to be a consultant, you can go to the NSBI website. I don't think we have a link here, but to the NSBI website, and they will take your information. I tried it out last night. They'll take your information and then they will put you on their website. Although you don't need to use an approved NSBI consultant, but you should, if you're a consultant, you should get your name up on that list anyway. But you don't need to use an approved consultant. I hope that answers your question there, James. Business navigators. There are business navigators inside the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Service Effectiveness. So they would normally help you if you were trying to open a business and wanted to navigate the intricacies of the provincial government and the permitting process. But they're available now to help navigate some of the provincial programs as well. The Small Business Impact Grant, that the deadline was Saturday, April 25th. Again, we are trying to encourage the provincial government. That was not fully subscribed, meaning they didn't spend the whole $20 million. We're trying to encourage the provincial government to do this again. Businesses are still closed. They've been closed for, in many cases, 8 weeks. It was great to get $5,000 for businesses that were primarily ordered closed, but they could use it again. And they could also use it to set up to get ready to reopen. The Worker Emergency Bridge Fund, a little more personal, but it was designed to help before the CERB benefit was paid. That is, I don't know that it's over, but it's likely. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, it's likely. People have likely taken advantage of that if they were eligible. The employer assessment tool, I won't go through that. It's an opportunity to kind of determine if you were actually ordered closed or not. Again, many businesses closed that were not ordered closed. And thank you all for that to help stop the spread. And I hope you're able to take advantage of some of the opportunities. Procurement opportunity, there is an opportunity through Nova Scotia. They are still looking for people to provide services. They're also looking for folks who can pivot and provide PPE equipment to both the province and around the world at this point. The small business rent deferral program is over. I'm not going to get into that at this point. Red Cross, there is a link here to allow you to donate to the families and victims of the Portapique and other areas of Nova Scotia shooting. The occupational health and safety tips. This, I think, is really important for all of us to look at as we move forward. This is the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety. This has downloadable tip sheets. So if you are a daycare, and I think that could be applied a little bit to schools, if you're a transportation company, if you're a construction company, you should download these documents, and I'll do retail. I'll click on retail, for example. This suggests some of the things that you should be doing as a retailer. to minimize the spread and to ensure your business is clean. So for employers, this is what you need to think about. As workers, this is what you need to think about. For store sanitation, this is what you need to do. For staff management, this is what you need to do. Store practices and policies, this is what you need to do. As we prepare for reopening. So things like clearly communicate to your customers any new practices and policies that will affect their shopping or service. Post these changes on your website, on the front doors, via email. Post a notice that customers who may be sick, have been exposed, or just returned to Canada should not enter the store. Promote home delivery. So, this is a really good example of a document that you as a small retailer could use to set up your business to prepare for reopening, okay? And there's many, from home delivery, long-term care, manufacturing businesses, food processing, restaurants and food service. These are great documents. I can't emphasize this enough, and I can't emphasize enough how important it's going to be that you follow these guidelines as we move forward. The onus is going to be on us as business operators. The government does not have enough people to check on businesses. The ultimate check is going to be whether or not coronavirus or COVID-19 begins to spread again. So we need to ensure that we minimize that spread. So I really encourage you to take a look at those documents and to utilize those documents. Share them with other businesses that you know. It's a great document, okay? Update to the Tenancy Act. This is part of the state of emergency. Landlords are not permitted to change locks or seize property of a business who cannot pay rent if the business closed directly because of COVID-19. So this only extends as long as the state of emergency exists, which I believe again is May 17th. That will end when the state of emergency ends. Seaway Financial Assistance Program, I think we've kind of gone through that now. Support for municipalities, the provincial government has offered up monies for the municipalities to backstop them. Monies meaning loan guarantees. NSCC also has business support. So Nova Scotia Community College has business support on how you can help to or leverage their folks and provide some good information or good feedback to students or some of the professors in the community. Okay. Volunteer Nova Scotia, you can sign up to volunteer. Oh, look, and here is the Nova Scotia Consultant Directory that I mentioned. So municipal resources, fairly slim pickings there. I will admit the municipality has deferred commercial taxes, and that is deferred, I think, for another few weeks, but to June 1st. They are also Halifax Water has deferred payments. So if you are unable to pay, then you can defer, and HRM has gone online. I know they're doing some specific things, like this week, there is a request to eliminate the patio fees that would normally be charged to restaurants. How to support local? I mean, I think many people are ordering locally. I would encourage you to continue to do that. So, order from downtown Dartmouth restaurants that are open, or downtown Halifax restaurants, and not only restaurants, stores, gift cards from stores, Quimple Road. Quimple Road is migrating and attempting to move online, which is wonderful. Would really encourage you to look at that. You got great retailers like Aerobics First, the Ardmore Tea Room offering a local diner offering food boxes, a great diner, and great breakfasts, I might add, at a very reasonable cost. Don't tell them. East Coast Bakery, all kinds of great stuff that you can now access online directly from Quimple Road, and they're providing assistance to the local businesses on how to get online quickly, which is amazing. Craft brewers. my favorite products. So lots of great stuff here. Nova Scotia makers, artisans, and craft people. So, people are still having birthdays or anniversaries or whatever it happens to be. You still need, can buy gifts. So I would encourage you to do that. Chamber Affinity Partners, we do have a large number. I've got 5 listed here of affinity partners, and their products that you can take advantage of, including one like Sona. So Sona is I think this goes to our page, but they've got a COVID toolkit. So they assist merchants in going online with all sorts of things. So e-commerce, card not present, gift cards, all sorts of things. So would really encourage you, and they offer discounts to Chamber members. So really encourage you to take a look at that. Chamber webinar series, well, today's one. We're also doing additional webinars, almost every day. I know we've got some listed here. There's more that are being added every single day, and they are saved. So I think if I refresh this page, let's see if I can refresh this page. There we go. See, this has changed already. Folks are changing things quickly. So flowcharts and other resources. The tip sheets are in there, and the webinars are all saved. Here you can see our YouTube channel, and you can see the resources. So webinars, as they're presented, are added. Oops, didn't mean to start that. Don't want to start that. Are added on a daily basis as they're recorded. So I would encourage you to take a look at those. Resources from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce as well, from the Canadian Business Resilience Network. So good up-to-date information. And then business-to-business support. So folks that have specifically presented to us, like MNP, Rogers, what they're doing, strategy sessions with SMU entrepreneurship, NSBI workshops, all sorts of things. And then finally, in the community, the Atlantic Compassion Fund and TELUS virtual express sessions and all sorts of things. So I would encourage you to take a look at all of these things. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. I've raced through all of this, so I apologize for going so quickly. Again, if there are any questions or comments from anyone. I see Sandra is putting up the events calendar, so that's a great point. Events are listed on our events calendar, and this is the COVID resource page. So, there are changes happening every day. We are meeting 3 times a week with all levels of government through a group that I chair called the Nova Scotia Business Labour Economic Coalition. We're getting good information. I expect we'll send another email today after we have our meeting with Dr. Strang to talk about what we've learned and what we're hearing signaled. I think that's the key word. What is the government signaling in terms of reopening? It's fair to say they don't yet have a plan that is public, but there are plans being worked on, and government signals every day. I think we've learned this in our advocacy efforts. They signal every day. They say we're thinking about this. Once they start saying we're thinking about it, it's coming. So there will be a plan to reopen Nova Scotia businesses. The question is, how will your business be impacted? Okay. So again, I'm kind of encouraging anyone, if you have specific questions, just yell them out, raise your hand. I think you can raise your hand as well on some of these things. I'm just quickly flipping over to to an email to see if there was additional information that had come in during that meeting, but I don't see any. I am soliciting. This is probably not great news, but if we are starting to get requests for support from members on accountants and lawyers who would be willing to assist and provide some advice to them. So if you are listening and you are an accountant or a lawyer and would like to provide advice to impacted businesses, at least an initial call, then we're certainly interested in hearing from you. At this point, I'm not seeing a whole lot more questions. So if anyone has any additional questions, I would again encourage you to ask them. I see that some folks are asking if they could speak to me offline. The answer is yes. It just I think you must be registered, Diane. So I think Sandra can get me your address or your email, and I can get back to you after. If anyone else has any comments or questions, I did put people in touch this morning who were questioning me on email about the status of their CUA application. Did put them in touch directly with CUA or credit union to get some of those questions answered quickly. I see that folks are saying they'd like to get feedback about the meeting with the province. I'm keen to get that out to everyone. I will say, and I know I've said this a number of times already, I'm starting to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I would really encourage you to look at that resource page I showed you in terms of the sheets that from the Center for Occupational Health and Safety. Those sheets, I suspect what government is going to say is you're on your own to reopen so long as you respect the safety protocols. So you need to think about those safety protocols. If you have an association, I don't know if there's an association for physiotherapists. I think there is. They need to have those documents completed. I know the Restaurant Association does have something done in a preliminary way, but really encourage you to look at those documents. And as you think about reopening, then take a look at that. Not to plug any one organization, but we've been contacted by Office Interiors who want to come to our office and are willing to do a view of our office on how we can reopen in a time of social distancing and what we need to do. So whether that's plexiglass at our reception desk, whether that's as crazy as it sounds, curtains in our in some of our open areas, whatever it happens to be. Would encourage you to speak to them if you're interested. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call it quits here, as I don't see any additional questions. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you found that worthwhile. If you do have any questions, please, you can send them to president@Halifax Chamber, and I'll get them. I can answer your questions directly. And if you'd like to have a chat, happy to do that as well. Oh, I see one hand raised. Oh, Diane, I think I can allow you to talk if you'd like to talk. Diane, I think you can talk. Oh, maybe I'm going to do this. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think that's working, Diane. So if you have I know we were going to get offline, so talk offline. I guess that's what we'll have to do. Okay. Let's try one more time. Yeah. Nope. I think we'll go. All right. Thanks, everybody. So questions to president@halifaxchamber.com. Thanks, everybody. And we'll end the session. Thank you.